Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the regular board meeting of the Rainbow District School Board for Tuesday, June the 4th at 5 o'clock. So welcome, everybody. Great to see all the trustees that are here and folks that have joined us in the audience, as well as people who are online. We are being live streamed tonight, just a reminder. We'll start off with our land acknowledgement, and the Rainbow District School Board would like to acknowledge that we are on the traditional and ancestral territory of the Nitishebek, including the Atikamekw, Ashanomic, and the Wahnapitae nations. We would like to acknowledge that we are situated within the Rainbow-Huron Treaty of 1850, and we want to recognize the inherent right of the Anishinaabe that maintain these lands from time immemorial. And we'll start tonight's meeting with a roll call.
Trustee Dabowski. Trustee Farrell.
Present.
Trustee Gibson.
Present.
Trustee Cosmerly.
Present.
Trustee McCauley. Present. Trustee Dewar.
Present.
Trustee Hunda.
Present.
Trustee Corbier-Addison.
Present.
Trustee Clement.
Present.
Student Trustee Green.
Present.
Student Trustee Jacko Sywink.
Thanks very much, Director. We'll move on to the approval of the agenda. We need a mover and a seconder that the agenda for the regular board meeting of June 4th, 2022 be approved. Moved by Trustee Cosmerly and seconded by Trustee Corbier-Addison. Any questions, comments, omissions, errors? Okay, we'll go to a roll call vote.
Trustee Clement.
In favor.
Trustee Corbier-Addison.
In favor.
Trustee Dewar.
In favor.
Trustee Farrell.
In favor.
Trustee
In
Gibson.
favor.
In favor.
Trustee Hunda.
In favor.
Trustee Cosmerly.
In favor.
Trustee McCauley.
In favor.
And Student Trustee Green.
In favor.
Motion's carried.
Thank you, Director. Next section of our agenda, preliminary declaration of pecuniary interest. Are there any declarations tonight? Seeing none. Next section is presentation. I'll turn this section over to Director Bourget. Go ahead.
Thank you, Chair Farrell. Trustees, it gives me great pleasure this evening to pay tribute to our student trustee. It seems like not only just yesterday, Student Trustee Green was sworn into his role, and here we are bidding goodbye as the term is completed for the office. We also will acknowledge that we're going to speak in addition to Trustee Jacko Sywink, who is unable to be here tonight, but we will share some words of appreciation as well. So both Trustee Green and Jacko Sywink represented the student voice around the board table this year. Most recently, they led the Student Senate to coordinate the Stand Up Speak Out Conference, which was a tremendous success. Students from all of our secondary schools came together to focus on building confidence and leadership skills. A grade 12 drama student in the French immersion program, Sawyer Green is enrolled in the specialist high skills major in arts and culture at Sudbury Secondary School. Sawyer has appeared in a number of plays and musicals, as well as stage managed and co-hosted performances and concerts. Sawyer's extracurricular involvement in school extends beyond the arts. Sawyer was on the Reach for the Top team that was invited to participate at the provincial level for the first time in decades. Being on the student parliament gave Sawyer an opportunity to work on many projects, including the Cancer Gala and Dress Drive. In the current school year, Sawyer joined Sudbury Secondary School's musical, The Little Mermaid, and also contributed to student council. Sawyer took a director's course and assisted with the drama teacher with the junior class, and together they directed Dramatically Yours, Sudbury Secondary School's annual junior drama performance. In addition to the arts, Sawyer is passionate about cooking and baking, which, they say, requires patience and practice, ingredients for resilience. At the beginning of the school year, Sawyer said, involvement in school is important because young minds are able to bring fresh ideas to the table, and added that student voice can make a new perspective to inform decision-making and affect change. At this point, we want to sincerely thank you for sharing your voice, Student Trustee Green. Next year, Sawyer will study at George Brown Theatre School in Toronto, and we wish you the absolute very best in your post-secondary studies. Student trustee Sonia Jacko-Sywink is not here, but we'd like to say a few words in appreciation of her efforts. Student trustee Jacko-Sywink is from Comiquon. She continued to be involved in various sports, and I think she's at a sporting event as we speak, including volleyball, basketball, badminton, softball, all at Manitoulin Secondary School this year. Sonia is a past member of the Student Council and the Three Fires Council, which she joined again this year. The council helps the school plan the powwow, in which she was a head dancer. Students know students best, she said. Involvement in school and school life is important because it gives students a chance to have their voice heard. Sonia believes that joining committees, teams, and clubs enables students to gain skills that will benefit them in the future, such as time management. And she added, being involved in extracurricular activities gives students a chance to meet new students and connect with their peers on a deeper level. Sonia also enjoys cooking. Cooking tells a story and connects people. She loves listening to music, traveling, and trying out foods from different cultures. She also enjoys learning about people's stories. And we want to thank Sonia for her contribution as a student trustee and active member of the Student Senate, and we wish her continued success as well.
Thank you, Director Bourget. Section D of our agenda is a report from closed meetings of the board. I don't think we have any tonight. So we'll move on to Section E, old business. Previous minutes. We have a motion that the minutes for the regular board meeting held on Tuesday, May the 14th, 2004 be approved. I need a mover. That's moved by Trustee McCauley and seconded by Trustee Hunda. Any errors or omissions? Seeing none, we will call for the poll vote. Director?
Trustee Clement.
In favor.
Trustee Corbier-Addison.
In favor.
Trustee Dewar.
In favor.
Trustee Farrow.
In favor.
Trustee Gibson.
In favor.
Trustee Hunda.
In favor.
Trustee Cosmerly.
In favor.
Trustee McCauley.
In favor.
And student trustee Green.
In favor.
Motion is carried.
Thank you, Director. Agenda item E2, reports and recommendation from the board committees. There are none tonight. Section E3, 2023-2004 school year update, and we'll turn the mic over to Director Bourget to give us an update.
Thank you, Chair Farrow. I appreciate the opportunity to provide you an update. The school year may be drawing to a close, but teaching and learning is certainly in high gear. And at this time, we're encouraging our staff and students to make the most of the final 4 weeks that remain in 2023-24. In presenting this update, I want to begin with the end in mind. With a well-defined mission and clearly articulated priorities, we continue to focus on what matters most to this board. This is a team effort, including administrators, managers, teachers, and support staff at the Center for Education and in all of our schools in Sudbury, Espanola, and Manitoulin Island. Together we have set a strategic direction, and together we are moving forward and preparing students to become lifelong learners, achieving their full potential as confident, caring members of society. As I share some highlights with you this evening, I invite you to think about our vision, mission, values, and priorities as we continue to be very purposeful in our work, transforming our intentions into actions. As you know, this is the time of year for culminating activities and celebrations of student success. We are pleased to have students from Rainbow Schools compete in the 2024 Skills Ontario competition in Toronto. Boston Renault of Confederation Secondary School took home silver in the heavy-duty equipment category. He is pictured here with proud teacher David Smart. And Van Prevost of Sudbury Secondary School garnered bronze in IT networking. I want to extend sincere congratulations to all participants and a special thanks to staff who engaged students in the trades and allowed them to explore viable career options. 7 projects from Llewellyn Park, 6 elementary and 1 secondary, were showcased at the Canada-wide Science Fair in Ottawa from May 25th to 31st. We are delighted that the projects selected to represent Sudbury at the Canada-wide Science Fair were from Rainbow District School Board, and we want to congratulate Ben Kawa, Felix Nagy, Eden Abels, Jack O'Donnell, Violet Simon, Camille Landry, and Xavier Simard. We also want to thank our staff for their tremendous leadership and support of our students. Here's a summary of the awards our students received at the National Fair. Ben Kawa, Eden Abels, Felix Haggy, and Jack O'Donnell, and in addition, Xavier Simard, all received Bronze Excellent Awards and University Entrance Scholarships. Ben also received the Harvey Travel Award in the intermediate category. And some of these scholarships totaled over $3,000 for some students. As I mentioned at a previous meeting, Xavier was voted Best and Fair for his project on capturing wind energy on cars. Xavier is a grade 8 student in the French immersion program at Llewellyn Park. In a recent Inspire feature on Sudbury.com, Xavier said he found his love of science at a young age when he realized it answered most of his questions about the world. That's what truly captivated me, he said. Nowadays, I'm thinking of all the ways we can use science to make our world a better place. Rainbow District School Board also hosted its first ever Eco Summit on May 8th at Laurentian University. This initiative is part of ongoing efforts to nurture citizens who care about the world in which they live. Eco leaders from grades 7 to 12 in Rainbow schools learned about environmental responsibility and how they can lead green initiatives in their respective school communities. Students heard from learning for a sustainable future from each other as some students shared what's happening in their schools. Students also participated in workshops focused on varied topics, including the medicine wheel and sacred circle of life teachings, electric vehicles, meditating through art in the outdoors, climate change, and health effects, and also sustainable agriculture. I thought I'd share some of these observations from two of our teachers on Manitoulin who participated in the summit. Here's a comment from Corey Davey from Central Manitoulin Public School, who said, in case it's hard to read, one of the highlights was sharing a bus from Eco Summit with all the schools from Gore Bay to Whitefish. Having the opportunity to talk with students and staff from various schools about what environmental initiatives they are undertaking was wonderful professional learning. Mentoring each other and seeking new information gives us inspiration to take more positive action in our schools to address climate change. Here's another comment. One of the most impactful moments of the conference for me was when a guest speaker from NOSM presented an image showing the difference between ego, a pyramid of nature with humans on the top being the most important, and eco, where humans are members of a circle in belonging. We need to be in the mindset of being part of a whole ecosystem and not thinking that the earth is ours to do as we please. Student leaders from all of the Rainbow District School Board secondary schools participated in the Stand Up, Speak Out conference on May 9th. Presented by the Student Senate and our very own Student Trustee Green, the conference focused on building confidence and building leadership skills. Keynote speaker Emma Morrison shared her confidence-building journey from Miss Northern Ontario to Miss Teenage Canada to Miss World Canada 2022. From Chapleau Cree First Nation, she is the first Indigenous woman to hold this title. Throughout her presentation, Emma encouraged students to step out of their comfort zones. She also encouraged them to have the confidence to stand up for themselves and say, "I'm proud," when they achieve something meaningful to them. She encouraged students to surround themselves with a circle of positive people to energize them and enhance their confidence. Following the keynote address, students participated in breakout sessions designed to support and nurture confident leaders. Workshops focus on confidence in your future, community, mental health, extracurriculars, and culture. Special thanks to our Student Senate for leading this initiative as we support the development of our student leaders. Also, a state-of-the-art horticulture room was unveiled at Lively District Secondary School on May 1st. Cultivated through a collaboration between Rainbow District School Board, Cambrian College, and the Sudbury Shared Harvest, this horticultural room will accommodate students in the grade 11 and 12 green industries, horticultural management, and science course, which focuses on the fundamentals of horticulture and landscape design. Students will learn how to grow their own food, propagate plants, and properly maintain plants and gardens. Some absolutely beautiful resin and cedar propagation tables were designed and built by students working with Cambrian Research and Design, the Applied Research Division of Cambrian College, and you can see the pictures on screen. Top left is actually a tabletop. Cambrian Research and Design also secured $75,000 from the Natural Sciences and Engineering Research Council of Canada, College and Community Service Innovation Fund for various supplies, including vertical hydroponic systems, which use a water-based nutrient solution to grow plants. Rainbow District School Board funded the installation of new flooring, as well as improved electrical and plumbing to retrofit the classroom into a modern green space for teaching and learning. Many improvements were inspired by the students of the specialized skills major and environment who shared their input. This project is an absolutely wonderful example of how partnerships can benefit students. And here's another example of a partnership with Cambrian College, a new mural in the entrance of Northeastern Elementary School that Trustee McCauley and I were very pleased to be part of the unveiling of. This mural spanning 11 panels and 228 square feet. It's an impressive piece of artwork that took 8 students and 2 faculty from the Design and Visual Arts and Art and Design Fundamentals program 213 hours to paint. Unveiled at the beginning of Education Week, the mural is a reflection of the students themselves as they progress through the years. Silhouettes of 10 students who were photographed for the project represent all grade levels, from junior kindergarten to grade 8. Within the silhouettes are words that define the values at Northeastern Elementary School: acceptance, cooperation, diversity, equity, friendship, inclusion, kindness, leadership, respect, and unity. Values that unite and connect the students, staff, and school community. The mural also features dragonflies, which are a symbol of growth and courage. The vibrant colors in the mural are friendly and welcoming, instilling a sense of energy and excitement from the moment students, staff, and visitors enter the school. It certainly complements the revitalization project that is currently underway. Also, in celebration, and it was mentioned by one of our trustees at the last meeting, but we'd like to highlight this and show an actual image. Principal Shannon LaFrance was recently praised by the Anishinaabeg education system for bringing school spirit to a whole new level at Minettville Public School, where she supports students from Doki's First Nation. The Educator Spotlight said she had a positive impact on students, families, and the entire school community since assuming the leadership role last fall, and we'd all like to congratulate Principal LaFrance. In addition, the Greater Sudbury Police Service hosted its annual Community and Police Awards Gala at the Crusoe Club on May 16th. This gala raises funds for youth initiatives. Sudbury Secondary School received the Police Community Leader Award for the Value Vault. Life skills teacher Laurie Leger accepted the award along with educational assistants Chantel Paquette and Janine Heber. The Value Vault has been in existence for a couple of decades. It began with Laurie Leger as a means of providing food, clothing, and home items for students in need, and over the years it transformed into a much larger undertaking that provides sustenance for many families in the Sudbury Secondary School community. And this evening, we're pleased to share with you the video that was featured at the gala, Compliments of the Greater Sudbury Police Service.
The Police Community Leader Award is presented to a leader in the City of Greater Sudbury in recognition of unselfish assistance provided to the police service, or for an initiative that has made a positive impact on the image or effectiveness of the police service. The Police Community Leader Award is sponsored by Pioneer Construction and Fisher Wavy. The Sudbury Secondary School Value Vault was originally created in 2008 when staff recognized that several students did not have access to basic essential items, including food, clothing, footwear, and household items. Staff approached administration with the idea of a space where students could access these items throughout the year, and with the support of administration, the Value Vault was set up in an unoccupied storage room. Staff, family, and friends began stocking the Value Vault with items from their homes and often with food added to their own grocery lists. Fortunately, staff members were able to apply for funding, and with support from the Sudbury Food Bank, the Value Vault has been receiving food and monetary support ever since. Organizations such as St. Andrew's United Church, St. Peter's United Church, Teachers Lions Group, and the CFUW continue to support the Value Vault, recognizing that it takes a village to raise children. The Value Vault now receives weekly deliveries of fresh and frozen foods, as well as non-perishable food items, to provide students with more nutritious options. Due to the high demand over the years, the Value Vault transitioned to a much larger space in the school, and currently the life skills class is responsible for managing it. The Value Vault serves between 75 and 100 students monthly and can be accessed by students during the lunch hour and after school. All students are welcome, and those that manage the vault emphasize that accepting a helping hand is a sign of strength and can be done with pride. Over the years, there have been many students who have benefited from the items available in the Value Vault, whether it is a pair of dry socks, shorts, or a t-shirt for gym class, shoes to replace worn out or broken shoes, a warm winter coat, an extra pair of pants, food because the cupboards are bare at home, a toothbrush and toothpaste, deodorant, school supplies, or even a toaster or frying pan to prepare food at home. Over the past few years, the Value Vault has been expanded to include a dress drive, where students have access to formal attire for special events such as prom, because every student should feel special for their graduation. The dedicated staff of Sudbury Secondary School work tirelessly to ensure that students have every opportunity to succeed and have seen firsthand the tremendous impact that the Value Vault has had on those who have accessed it. Congratulations to Lori Ledger, Vicky Ashik, Alicia Doiron of the Sudbury Secondary School Value Vault, this year's recipients of the Police Community Leader Award.
So from the dedicated staff at Sudbury Secondary to honoring another dedicated staff member, Lise Orsini, a longtime educational assistant with the board, was among the recipients of this year's Outstanding Educator Award from the Learning Disabilities Association of Sudbury. The award was presented during a virtual celebration on April 18th. Our educational assistants are highly valued members of our school. Lise Orsini, who currently serves at R.H. Murray Public School, continues to be a wonderful role model. Lise says she enjoys working with the amazing students in the Rainbow District School Board to help meet their needs and watch them succeed day by day. She values her role in helping students become citizens they deserve to become. Thank you, Lise. On to March of Dimes of Canada, who recently received an award from the Greater Sudbury Chamber of Commerce for Nonprofit Excellence. Project Search is one of the programs that prompted the nomination. Now in its second year, Project Search is a partnership with the Rainbow District School Board, Health Sciences North, the City of Greater Sudbury, and March of Dimes Canada. A transition to work program that combines classroom instruction with hands-on training, Project Search, Health Sciences North, has experienced tremendous success. Students in their final year of high school develop skills required for employment. We look forward to expanding the project to Pioneer Manor next year, and we want to thank Superintendent Watchnuk, Principal Daniel Williamson, and all the staff for their leadership with this tremendous initiative. The trades trailer made a stop at Central Manitoulin Public School recently. In a designated outdoor space, students built a multi-trades toolbox under the mentorship of their own teachers and curriculum coordinator, Eric Bacon. The trailer has proven to be a popular way of giving students in grades 7 and 8 an opportunity to enjoy hands-on learning in the trades. And you will all recall that the trailer made a stop at our last strategic planning meeting, where trustees had an opportunity to test their skills. We thought you'd enjoy some of the images from that evening. As you know, skilled trades are vital to the health and growth of our economy. We are engaging students in the trades to promote viable career pathways where there continues to be significant demand. Rainbow District School Board participated in Take Your MPP to School, which is presented by the Ontario Public School Boards Association. Nickel Belt MVP Franz Jelena visited Confederation Secondary School with Trustee Cosmley and Chair Farrell. We'd like to thank Principal David Bertram, as well as the Confederation teachers, staff, and students who made the visit very memorable. We also had Sudbury MVP Jamie West, who visited Sudbury Secondary School, where he toured classes with Principal Heather Downey, Chair Farrell, and Trustee Cosmley. And again, we want to thank the staff at Sudbury Secondary School for their warm welcome, and Trustee Cosmley for making this all possible. Sudbury Secondary School celebrated its rich history with the opening of its archives on May 30th in the school library. Members of the general public had an opportunity to peruse the materials and memorabilia as Sudbury Secondary School honors its very rich legacy. Many former students and staff attended the event. The collection, curated by longtime library technician Bev Belrose, features letters written by Sudbury High School graduates who were fighting overseas in World War II. There's also a comprehensive collection of yearbooks dating back to the 1920s. as well as minutes from Sudbury Secondary High School Students' Councils from the 1950s. The material is now archived in a climate-controlled space in appropriate archival boxes, and this is where the archives will be safely and securely retained for generations to enjoy in coming years. Many of our schools have hosted plays which are not only giving students a creative outlet but building character. McLeod Public School presented The Princess King, which was 7 months in the making, and as you see there, it's quite an impressive cast. Llewellyn Park Secondary School also presented Little Women, and LaSalle Secondary School presented The Brothers Grimm. Moving to sports, 7 students from Sudbury Secondary School headed to NASA for track and field, including Abdul Abdiodun, who won silver medal in the senior boys triple jump and the 100-meter dash, achieving a personal best of 11.3 seconds, which is very fast. Also of note, Llewellyn Park Secondary School won its 7th consecutive NASA track and field aggregate championship, breaking 4 NASA records, and LaSalle broke 2 at the very same event. Rainbow Schools qualified 100 student athletes from 7 secondary schools for OFSA track set to take place in London. 233 students completed at NASA track in North Bay, and 4 Rainbow School teams, Lockerbie, Llewellyn, junior and senior boys, participated in NASA soccer in various locations this weekend. Llewellyn also captured its 4th consecutive NASA tennis aggregate championship and will send 6 student athletes to OFSA tennis. Congratulations to all, and thank you so much for our volunteer coaches. May 23rd was World Turtle Day. Kindergarten students from RLBD Public School enjoyed learning with Indigenous support worker Hazel Fox Recola. Ms. Hazel spoke to the students about the story of Turtle Island and the connection between a turtle shell and the moon cycles. Everyone enjoyed a treat of bannock with maple butter and jam from Hiawatha's. As you know, the superintendents and I spend a lot of time in schools and in classrooms engaging with students and staff, and I'm happy to share some of the wonderful learning we encountered during our visits. Elementary schools held entrepreneurship fairs where students showcased their businesses. These photos on this slide were taken at Algonquin Road Public School. You can see some quite interesting projects. Our secondary staff resumed meetings this year as subject councils, which means teachers of similar subject areas coming together to work and learn together. These equations came from, as you might guess, math. The math subject council meeting, and you can see math is great fun. All you have to do is look at the picture. These 2 photos show the range of mathematical skills that start in elementary school and ends in grade 12 math. When students gain a solid foundation in numeracy in early years, they can indeed complete complex problems, solving them by the time they graduate. It's nice to see the level of engagement from students at Queen Elizabeth Public School in this lesson and how engaged the math teachers were in their professional learning during the subject council meetings. I had the pleasure of attending the R.H. Murray Public School Arts Day. Talented artists showcased their works. Sudbury's Poet Laureate worked with the students, and the students were introduced to the Sudbury Symphony Orchestra. And we'll just play a quick clip for that. It really was an amazing day. And while I visited R.H. Murray, I was pleased to see this display of writing buddies. Kindergarten students teamed up with students in the grade 5-6 class to share their thoughts on characters. On one of Superintendent McNamara's visits, she enjoyed seeing these anchor charts posted in classrooms for students to reference. An anchor chart for writing, usually developed in collaboration with students, highlights best practices for writing. This could include examples of punctuation, capitalization, or information about good sentence composition. In older grades, it could include how to write an effective paragraph using various models and tools. And samples of writing also caught Superintendent McNamara's eye, and you see some samples here. The student on the left from McLeod Public School is wishing her mother a happy Mother's Day. And the piece on the right comes from a grade 1 student at Adamsdale. The task was to describe how to get dressed for school. It comes complete with some artwork and quite a bit of text. The student wrote about dressing through the seasons, and as you know, we've been very intentional in ensuring that our students have protected time to develop their writing skills. Learning a second language is also offered to all students, and students take French, and then where we can provide staff, Ojibwe. This photo is an Ojibwe class at Adamsdale Public School. At Lansdowne Public School, Superintendent Watchnuck visited the grade 1-2 class as they were planting sunflowers and vegetables for the Antwerp Community Gardens. We see examples of equity and inclusion in all of our schools as we walk the halls. These visuals were taken in the library at LaSalle Secondary School. Marks Day Public School held its first fun fair on May 29th. Students at Queen Elizabeth Public School were collaborating on building. Kindergarten students at Asiganak Public School were proud to show off what they've been learning about baby animals this spring to Superintendent Fisher during her visits, including safe chicken handling and swimming lessons. The next slide gives meaning to the traditional periodic table. It's a new meaning. These are elements of a successful learner. This comes from Llewellyn Park Secondary School. And here's one. We'll zoom in and take a closer look at one of these elements, optimism, which means hopefulness and confidence about the future or the success of something. And as you know, we want our students to be optimistic about their learning and the bright future that will follow. And we couldn't resist including this image in tonight's update. There are many ways in which we build self-confidence in our students. And sometimes, as Superintendent McNamara demonstrates, all it takes is to make a student smile is to share the same style of glasses. So trustees, I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to provide this update, and I'd be pleased to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Director Borzett. Are there any questions for the Director? Seeing none, thanks Bruce for that absolutely wonderful update of all the great stuff that's happening in Rainbow Schools. So we'll move on in our agenda to Section F, New Business. And F1 is what we've all been waiting for. It's the 2024-2025 budget presentation. So I'll turn the floor over to Superintendent Guilbeault to do the presentation. Go ahead, Adam. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Farrell. Before we get started, at the risk of invoking some deja vu from last year's presentation, I just want to wish my son Henry a happy 9th birthday. Last year was my daughter's, so I've run bad on these dates, but we should be good for a few years afterwards. Good evening, everyone. Tonight, we are happy to share with you our 2024-2025 budget. Following the presentation, we'll be happy to answer any questions you might have, and in accordance with our budget development plan, we will reconvene on June 17th for final approval before submitting to the ministry prior to the June 28th deadline. During that 2-week period, please feel free to reach out to us if you have any additional questions that come up after tonight's meeting. To begin, we have included similar slides to last year's presentation regarding Bill 98, the Better Schools and Students Outcomes Act, as a means of reminding everyone about the ministry's directives and some changes since we reviewed this last year. There remains a clear focus on developing skills related to early reading and math, and this is reflected in the continuation of the PPFs, now REPs, that are linked to these initiatives. Job readiness also remains a focus, as evidenced by continued supports through programs such as SHISM and the recent announcements regarding the modernization of Ontario's secondary school diploma requirements. Dedicated funds remain in place supporting both mental health and equity-based initiatives regarding human rights and inclusion as well. Special education is defined by a dedicated pillar within the core education funding with some changes, notably that the SIP funding is no longer claims-based, but rather increases by a fixed amount each year with increases to both the base amounts plus the per pupil amount. Student safety also remains a priority, and we will detail a new responsive education program later in the presentation geared towards projects supporting this. Student transportation funding, also defined by its own pillar within core education funding, is in the second year of this new funding formula. This year, they have added vans and smaller vehicles to the budget, but boards around the province continue to struggle with gaps within this formula, and we are engaged in continuing consultation with the ministry regarding potential solutions. From the capital perspective, the focus continues on building schools faster with the use of standard design models and by encouraging projects to be shovel-ready upon submission in order to speed up the approval process. We have been told that applications for capital priorities should be opening soon, with submissions likely due sometime in the fall of this year. You may know that some items that were in this bill last year are no longer supported. For example, the de-streaming items related to staffing listed within the original document are no longer supported by the PPF funding that they were last year. There's also been a sunsetting of all COVID-related funding, some of which was mentioned as part of last year's presentation. To set the stage for our 24-25 budget, we think it is important to review our board's mission, vision, and values. Here you will find what we are all very familiar with. Our mission: together we prepare students to become lifelong learners, achieving their full potential as confident, caring members of society. Our vision: we are leaders in learning, inspiring success for all students by reaching minds and touching hearts. And our values: humility, bravery, honesty, wisdom, truth, respect, love, resilience, equity, and community. Next, you will see our board priorities: student success and achievement, literacy and numeracy, truth and reconciliation, mental health and well-being, environmental education and sustainability, equity and inclusive education. As a comparison, we have included the stated ministry priorities that guide the responsive education programs we will detail later in the presentation. These include literacy, STEM, which is science, technology, engineering, and math, Indigenous education, French language education, supporting vulnerable students, mental health, student readiness, and operations. Trustee Cosmerly, to address a question you had asked for us during the last budget update regarding the supporting vulnerable students priority, you will notice later on in the presentation several REPs linked to this. They include the Special Education AQ subsidy and the Special Education Needs Transition Navigators allocation. Consistent with presentations you've seen over the years, we will now outline limitations set by the ministry as we go about establishing our budget. The funding provided by the ministry does allow certain flexibility that allows us to allocate funds to our greatest areas of needs within the following limitations: that curriculum and programs are delivered as prescribed by ministry directives, that class sizes are met within all schools, that special education funding is spent on that very purpose and any unspent funds be placed in a special education reserve to carry forward, that funding intended for major repairs and capital work of our school facilities be used for that purpose, and similarly, any unused funds placed in a capital reserve. The ministry has introduced a separate compliance report that, along with transportation funding, ensures that this is in line with expectations. That funding for school board administration and governments shall not exceed the allocation. And while compliance always existed within our reporting requirements, there is now a separate compliance report for this, similar to the capital and transportation one. And that funding under the responsive education programs, formerly the PPFs, must be used as prescribed. There is an expectation that budgets will balance. In the event that there is a projected deficit, the use of reserve funds can be utilized, limited to the lesser of the accumulated surplus balance and 1% of the board's operating revenue. Board approval is still required for this type of projected deficit, with ministry approval required for any amount beyond these limits. The following criteria is also consistent with previous years as the process we undertake when initially developing the following year's budget. The current year is used as a base to build off of, maintaining programming that aligns with both board and ministry priorities with the following adjustments: exclusion of any one-time budgets within the 23-24 funding model, adjustments necessitated by the provisions within the collective agreements, including Bill 124 settlements, some of which we will go over later in the presentation, adjustments for inflationary impacts and statutory increases, and of course, the special education budget that was recommended by SEAC and approved at our May 14th board meeting. Here you can see our predicted average daily enrollment for the 24-25 school year. Consistent with previous years and in line with ministry recommendations, we have been conservative with our estimates. The basis of these projections comes from current year enrollment and historic retention rates, with consideration given to current population trends. For this year, that includes federal adjustments to immigration policy and a province-wide reduction in JK registrations based on information shared with us by the Ministry of Education. The following is a summary of our facilities in operation with one adjustment for the 2024-25 school year. That is the reopening of Westmount Public School as approved by the ministry, bring our elementary totals from 28 to 29 for a total of 39 active locations. You'll also see a list of other programs being run by the board, some of which are housed in alternative locations outside of board ownership. This next section was where we would typically go over the former Grants for Student Needs, GSNs. Instead, we will present to you a summary of the new core education funding. The 6 funding pillars consist of the following: Classroom Staffing Fund, or CSF, which focuses on salaries for staff within the classroom, including teachers, early childhood educators, and some education assistants. Please note that the majority of the EAs are funded through the Special Education Fund. The Learning Resource Fund, or LRF, funds supports for staff typically outside of the classroom and includes librarians and librarian technicians, guidance counselors, and mental health workers. This also captures expenses for learning materials and classroom equipment and technology. The Special Education Fund, or SEF, funds programs, services, and equipment for students with special needs. It also includes funding for professional assessments previously provided in a PPF. The School Facilities Fund, or SFF, covers operational costs including utilities, cleaning, maintenance, repairs, renovations, and capital project work. It also houses the Rural and Northern Education Funding, or RNEF. The Student Transportation Fund, or STF, funds the board's busing and other transportation costs. The School Board Administration Fund, or SBAF, covers all governance and administration costs outside of the school. For clarity, in-school administration, principals and vice principals are funded under the Learning Resources Fund. This allocation is for board office and trustee expenses, parent engagement activities, and audit, bargaining, and data management costs. The declining enrollment adjustment, if applicable, would also be funded here. While this new funding model does look very different, it is important to note that the funding amounts are largely the same. While many have been relocated within the pillars, we have attempted to make an apples-to-apples comparison when presenting the 24-25 budget. To begin with, we will go over some of the adjustments that have taken place within the CEF. Much of this will be familiar from our discussions on similar changes within the GSN last year, so as to help with that transition. As I mentioned previously, the ministry has removed much of the funding that became available during the COVID-19 pandemic, including the Learning Recovery Funding. Please note that ventilation supports continue in the form of ministry-provided filter replacements, and the Safe and Clean Schools funding is now provided under the School Facilities Fund. As a reminder of last year's adjustment, the funding methodology for FNMI studies allocation has been revised, with a realignment and reallocation towards the board action plan to better support Indigenous education priorities. The one-time mitigation fund granted last year is not available this year. I also mentioned earlier changes to the student incident portion funding. In an effort to reduce administrative work required under the previous claims-based process, it is now formulaic, based on a static increase each year. The compensation adjustments made in this budget as a result of a long year's worth of negotiations include increases in the collective agreements for the noted groups you see here. Provisions have been made for the groups that remain unsettled as supported by ministry funding. Teacher salary benchmark saw a 1.25% increase from the 2022-2023 school year to the current one, and a further 1.25% increase for the 24-25 school year. Principals and vice principal salary benchmarks remain unchanged for the 24-25 school year. Consistent with previous years, the ministry has provided a 2% increase to non-staff portion of school operation that boards can utilize in an attempt to combat the significant pressures of cost increases to utilities, commodities, insurance, and contract work since the pandemic. As I referenced earlier, the new student transportation framework introduced last year continues this year with adjustments made to include small vehicles that were absent in the 23-24 model. Rainbow's transportation budget currently projects at a deficit of approximately $713,000 as we continue to advocate for supports that reflect the increasing costs of this operation based on contract rates. From the capital perspective, the ministry has made the same investment in 24-25 that they did in last year's budget. This includes just over $1 billion in SCI funding and $375 million in school renewal funding. We will go over board-specific allocations shortly. Please note, as a reminder, the time limit now being enforced on funding that is announced and not spent out within 3 years. The following list details the responsive education programs, or REPs, previously known as the Priority and Partnership Funding, or PPFs. Most of the items and amounts seen here are consistent with last year's, with a few notable exceptions. The newest REP is the Critical Physical Security Infrastructure, which will be available for 3 years and is used to support projects that include the installation of vape sensors in school washrooms, additional cameras, and lighting where required. While funding for de-streaming supports remains in the amount of $30,400, we no longer have the de-streaming staffing fund that was provided last year. You will note that the funding provided for early reading and math priorities continues in 24-25 in the same way they did during this current year. The same remains true for Indigenous grad coaches and funding related to the trades, including bursaries and apprenticeship programs. Similarly, mental health and special education specific funding remains available in the upcoming year. Please note that some special education programs remain application-based. On May 27th, we applied again for the Removing Barriers for Students with Disabilities funding, and we continue to work on our second location for Project Search using the funding we got last year for the Developmental Disabilities Pilot Program. Our budgeted personnel complement for 2024-25 is as follows. You will note the increase in elementary teachers as a result of the increase in predicted enrollment. Similarly, our complement of educational assistants has increased to address the needs we have in our respective schools. And while secondary teachers appear to be down despite also having increases in predicted enrollment, the effect is based on the reduction in Native Studies teachers that were previously funded under the FNMI envelope. The board office reduction, is a result of a contracted employee whose term has expired in the current year. Here you will see your first look at revenue under the new funding model. Please note that it was extremely difficult to map 23-24 numbers to this new structure, but I want to commend the finance department for their assistance with this based on the information provided by the ministry. The increases to classroom staffing and learning resources are directly related to the increase in predicted enrollment. The special education funding has increased based on the new calculation previously mentioned. School facilities funding has gone up 2%, but this figure also includes the rural and northern education funding that was previously under the Geographic Circumstances grant, as well as the portions related to increased enrollment. The transportation fund I have spoke to earlier, but has increased based on both enrollment and hence projected ridership and the inclusion of smaller vehicles not previously covered. The planning provision you see listed relates to the settlements for Bill 124 and the adjustments to rates as a result of the new respective CBAs. This line item did not appear on last year's budget, as this information was provided by the ministry for both future and previous years just recently. The expectation is that benchmark adjustments will be released in the fall, allowing us to reconcile these estimates. Removing this provision as a one-time adjustment, the actual increase in core ed funding is approximately 2.4%. Capital amounts for school renewal have increased, and temporary accommodation funding used for new modular units is included here, although that amount remains the same. School condition improvement funding has decreased due to the number of facilities we have closed in the last couple of years. LaSalle Elementary is also not eligible for this funding as a new build. Under the other column, you will note the one-time mitigation fund previously mentioned and related to the Indigenous funding reallocation to the board action plan, which is no longer available. Under miscellaneous, we have an increased revenue based on a rise in community use post-pandemic and growth in interest revenue. Our projected cash balances have also allowed us to budget for lower debt charges, as seen above. The REPs are substantially less, but there are some amounts that are unknown to us at this point that we would have known at revised estimate for 23-24 in the comparative column. However, items missing include approximately $660,000 for de-streaming staffing that is no longer available, and $127,000 for professional assessments that can now be found in the Special Education Fund. And finally, we look at the use of reserves and deferred revenue to attempt to balance our budget. Special education is utilizing over $3.5 million from that specific reserve to balance their budget. Student Focus Initiatives money has been earmarked for a project to assist with their newcomers and English language learners, while the target student supports is from the Student Success budget to assist with staffing costs. While the accumulated surplus is adjustment is approximately $390,000 for compliance purposes, which includes adjustment for committed capital project amortization, our actual projected deficit for the 2024-25 school year is $704,045. That is the amount that is the amount that will be put forward for approval in 2 weeks' time, well within the 1% allowable by the ministry. Again, that deficit figure is $704,045. These two graphs are simply an illustration of the funding provided by core education versus the spending under those same envelopes. And I think it's going to be tough to get on the screen, but I hope you have a copy in front of you. We're about to go over the expenses as you are used to seeing them, but we thought this might be helpful in understanding how the funding model drives the spending within the board. Please note that because of how we allocate certain expenses based on new mapping compared to historical, the combination of classroom staffing and special education is approximately 64% in both charts. Moving to something that will be more familiar, we look at expenses by object for the 2024-25 budget. Traditionally, salaries and benefits make up 75+% of the board's expenses, and the same is true in this year. The increase is related to the adjustments required by Bill 124 and increases in average salaries, as well as the changes and respective increases to CPP employer contributions. The supply and services increases relate to surges in costs for the facility budget. As previously mentioned, this includes items such as utilities, maintenance supplies, and repair costs. These include our contracts for site maintenance, which include landscaping and lawn maintenance, garbage removal, pest control, and snow removal, as well as cleaning contracts and third-party contractors required for repair work. These have all seen increases in relation to CPI over the last few years. The transportation budget is captured within the fees and contracts portion, where we have already mentioned the increases related to bus operators and the new contract signed in 2022. We have also seen increases within the information services budget, including annual licenses and support charges, and the significant infrastructure investments required as we work to improve network security. Other costs in this area include legal fees, courier contracts, audit fees, and our insurance premiums. The debt charges are associated with our loans for capital projects from the ministry and the Ontario Financing Authority, and the association fees include OPC, OPSPA, OPSOA, and the Student Trustee Association. Looking at the expenses by function, we can relate it to the core education funding pillars and the chart we just shared. Instruction and pupil accommodation costs are captured largely within the classroom staffing and special education funding pillars, whereas the school management, student support services, and teaching support services can be found within the Learning Resources Fund, or pillar. The increases for these functions, much like we discussed in the last slide, are related to the Bill 124 adjustments and the provisions for the benchmark increases. The instructional staff line has grown as per the personnel complement we reviewed earlier. The teacher support amount has increased for the same reasons, but this is also including 4 consultants that were previously funded by the de-streaming PPF and are now showing on this line rather than the last line where you see the REP spending. As outlined in the same chart, both transportation and administration and governance are reported separately. We have already discussed the increase in transportation, And the increase in admin and governance is related to the $1 per hour labor provision increase, which excludes exec council. And finally, the increase in continuing education from last year is due to the reallocation of the summer learning PPF, or REP, and one adult day school teacher previously on the instruction line. Both are now showing in its continuing education section. And finally, you will see the dates established by the ministry for future financial reporting requirements. As previously mentioned, the deadline for submission of this 24-25 budget is June 28th. Financial statements for the 23-24 fiscal year are due by November 15th, and revised estimates for the 24-25 budget must be submitted by December 13th prior to the holiday break. Our March interim reporting for the same 24-25 year are due on May 15th of 2025. Before I turn to any questions you may have, I'd like to extend my heartfelt gratitude to a large group of people that worked very hard to put this budget and presentation together. To our Executive Council, system principals, and department leads for their invaluable input and contributions. To Tiffany Hayes in the HR department for their tireless work and staffing for the 24-25 school year. To Nancy Chiquetto, who is here this evening to help answer questions, and the finance department for the hours and hours of input required to establish this budget. And finally, to Dawn for all the work that goes into putting this presentation together. Truly a team effort, and we are very pleased with what we have presented to you this evening. And with that, I will turn it over to the trustees for any questions you might have. Thank you.
Thank you, Superintendent Gilbo. Really appreciate it. We'll open up the floor for questions on the presentation. We have Trustee Corbier-Addison. Go ahead.
Thank you for your presentation, and through you, Chair, thank you for your information on page 17. You talked about decreases in Native Studies teachers that were no longer funded. Are those positions cut out of the board? Are they compensated in other ways?
Good question. Go ahead.
I can speak to that question, Trustee Corbier-Addison. So this was part of a letter we wrote previously to the ministry on this regard. And what happened was that the sections for certain Indigenous Studies courses were no longer permitted to be used out of the Indigenous Education Fund. So the courses, which once were staffed fully for low enrollment, were only partially funded. And that decrease reflects the fact that the changes amounted to some course offerings that were reduced. However, all the students who selected courses that were viable, the courses have run, but it did decrease the staff in our secondary schools as a result of the impact of that funding change on courses and course funding.
Thank you. You have a follow-up, Trustee Corbier-Addison? Anything else? Or we can move on and come back to you. Okay. Any other questions? Yeah, Trustee McCauley.
Thank you for excellent presentation. I can't imagine the amount of work that went into it. And I'm probably going to really show my ignorance of the process, but it's, what I'm trying to get my head around is what controls do we have over the budget versus the controls imposed on us by the ministry, and how can we identify that? We're being asked to pass a budget, and really we don't seem to have a lot of autonomy. At least that's the way I understand it. Just as an example, I look at transportation costs. 17,400,000. What direct control do we have over that, or is it based on a per capita funding model where, you know, you need so many buses for so many kids or whatever? Could we hypothetically go into that particular line account and say, well, we'd like to see that reduced, and try to come up with some kind of a policy move from within? Are these kind of things possible?
Through you, Chair. speaking specifically to the transportation budget, this new model is based off routing simulations and benchmarks that they have established. So when consortia or boards, if they're running it directly, are providing the routing that is necessary to transport the students, it is driving a certain amount of funding based on those benchmarks, and it isn't flexible beyond that. So some of the challenges include the fact that contract rates are different across the province, distances are different, certain cost elements, monitors and overhead expenses can be different. It is challenging, speaking that one specifically. To speak more globally, while there is flexibility within certain pieces of the budget, there is a lot of enveloping funds that, again, we can only access for certain purposes, and I think I spoke to that a little bit earlier in the presentation. Within things like the classroom staffing, the learning resources, that's where we have flexibility, but of course most of those dollars go to staffing costs.
Thank you very much.
We have Trustee Cosmerly. Go ahead.
I'm so concerned about this budget. I'm concerned, I know we have to have a balanced budget, so now we're looking at $704,000 coming out of our reserves. Sorry, thank you. In order to balance, and I know we have to submit a balanced budget. I worked for the government, so I know all that. I'm really concerned. One thing when Chair Farrow and I met with the two opposition MPPs to take them on a tour of the school, we did have the board prepare a document for us. And what it highlighted was the reductions in the SIP funding, which is going to hit us like a ton of bricks. The reduction in the Indigenous funding, the reduction in the transportation funding, the reduction in the capital funding. This really concerns me, really concerns me. And I think we need to be saying something, because publicly things look wonderful, but as you just said, the REP funding is substantially less. We know that costs are going to keep going up. We are struggling this year. We're going to be struggling next year with the reductions in funding, and I would really like to see us, we have to submit a balanced budget, fine, but I would like to see us maybe send some kind of a letter or something. I don't know where it'll get us, but I think we need to let the government know we are not happy with what they're doing. We are trying to support students. How are we supposed to support students the way they need to be supported when we are getting more and more students in, and we are getting less and less funding available to support them? So that means pulling out of other things. So that's my little rant. The other piece was about the benchmark funding and the outstanding CPP and WSIB funding. You talked sort of fast, so I don't know, are we getting that money or are we not getting it from the province?
All the money related to the benchmark funding we are getting, we are receiving. Again, there is that planning provision that I had mentioned is the estimate. We were told that the benchmarks should be settled by August, at which point we can reconcile and see, but I think we're comfortable that we're in the right space there. The CPP increases have not been directly addressed, and so therefore that is covered by our normal budget.
So just to follow up, how much money are you talking about with that for our board?
So the impact for this year for the CPP is about $320,000.
Okay, we're going to go to Trustee Macaulay.
Thanks, Judy. I'm wondering if we see things like the SIP funding and all of these things that are really going to be a hit on us, is there a way that if we are going to be addressing the ministry with those concerns that we can put in an alternative? Like, what would be our alternative, and how do we set up a system to develop that? Because I think if we just tell them we're not happy, they're going to say, oh, gee, that's kind of too bad. But if we have what we consider to be a viable alternative, that we should, A, show the necessity, B, show the alternative, be it with the Indigenous funding, with the ZIP funding, or any of the areas that we see as a board that holds our concern. So once we send that back, we send it back with an idea that the ministry is going to address those concerns and perhaps respond to them, because otherwise, all we're doing is just pushing forward the ministry's position, a lot, from what I'm hearing, to the detriment of our students. And if we want to stand up and talk in a big, loud voice, I'd like us to have an ability to show what we can do. That's going to be more work for us, mind you. There's no doubt about it. But I think that we could strike committees or the like in order to address those kind of concerns with the, the excellent administrative staff that we have, that we could formulate some of this and put together a brief. And it's just a thought, Chair.
Thank you, Trustee McCauley. I've got Trustee Corbett Addison, and I'm looking online too. Trustee Gibson, if you have anything, please let us know.
Thank you. Just one more point. I know it's not the board's fault, it's what we're given and the hand we have to play. But this budget, due to the decrease in teaching in those subject areas, is going to result in decreased learning. It's going to hurt our kids. And we've advocated all year to the understanding that some advocation would help with those deficit areas, and at this point, it hasn't, but perhaps with Trustee McCauley's suggestion, we can continue to advocate for maybe replacement of gap funding that was taken away to try and bridge those gaps and get adequate staff in those positions.
Go ahead, Trustee Gilbo.
Just a comment through you, Chair. You're 100% right. I will, just let you know that we recently had our COSBO conference last month, which is all the SBOs for the 72 boards, and the consensus is that the pain points this year are the same ones that were last year, and that boards are feeling it, maybe not all in the same way, but certainly in the same spots. And we continue to advocate as that group. I'm happy to say that I'm part of the COSBO executive this year, so a part of the group that will be part of the advocacy, and will certainly echo the comments and sentiments shared by this group through that process.
Any other further questions? Trustee Clement.
Thank you, Chair. I've been here a long time, watching these budgets come along, and my bottom line was, hey, does it balance? But my concern now is we're having to dig out of reserves all the time to balance our budget. How long is this going to go? So when it came to the cuts in the Indigenous portfolio, we did have that meeting, Linda DeBossier, myself, and Adam, I think you were there, and we talked to the Deputy Minister. And that's quite a while back. It just all fell on deaf ears. Whether it be the Ministry of Health, Ministry of Education, they're bound to determine to cut. Where is this going to stop? And you're right, Trustee McCauley, I hope we can do something, but it just right now, it just seems to be falling on deaf ears. I know you're doing a lot of work, Adam, trying to balance our things, but to say, especially where we're doing Truth and Reconciliation, and what do we do? 5 jobs? We're not doing that anymore. What does that say? So I don't know where this is all going to go, but we have to do something soon. We can't keep just digging out of reserves to balance the budget. Thank you.
Trustee Hunda.
I'm going to take a very deep breath. I was going to avoid saying anything, but I think I will go home, go through these, and I'll probably have more questions for you, Adam, unfortunately. I'm sorry. But I echo what I'm hearing around this board table. I'm frustrated. I'm scared. I truly am. I mean, our reserves can only take us so far. Yes, because we've been so fiscally responsible that we have the reserves, and we've been able to maintain the excellent programs that we need. and that are needed by our students. But it can't go on forever, and it's getting scary. And I do think that we need to be a louder voice. I think we have to stop being afraid to stand up and say, like, we do not agree with this. We need to stand up and say the North is unique. Our transportation issues are unique. Our resources, special ed, is a lot of our transportation costs as well. Like, it's not the same. We're not just a bunch of communities in a row where if a bus breaks down, you know, you can go to the gas station or bring your kiddies to the gas station. Like, that happens, like, by Werner. These kids are on the side of the road. I'm very, very frustrated. However, over all my many years, it's always been my motto, that we do the best we can with what we have, but we have to continue to fight for better. And I think that we do need a stronger voice without a fear of retribution or, you know, what. Like, I lived through a very miserable time, as some of you, I think, were around and recall, where, Doreen, when they clawed back our special ed reserve, because we had been fiscally responsible all those years. We had a nice special ed reserve, and when a number of boards were struggling and weren't passing balanced budgets, so all of a sudden, wow, they claw back ours. We didn't get any back. They got bailed out. We got nothing. I mean, it's really scary. We have to be concerned. We have to stand up. We have to say, like, I understand that it's not an unlimited pot, but we do need to understand the importance of education. And we need to understand, moving forward, how long can this take us? And Adam, I want to thank you. I want to thank your team. Just refresh my memory. When is it that you got the funding? Yeah, about a month ago. It was late coming in, was it not? Was it before or after we were mandated to have our staffing numbers in? Thank you. I think that's enough said there too. You know, what kind of a pickle does that put boards in? You've already had to do your staffing by this date, but then we'll give you the funding. No, I'm sorry. I'm
Thank you, Trustee Hunt.
very concerned.
Absolutely. Trustee Dewar, do we have anything online? No. 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 Trustee Dewar, go ahead. I'm interested to see your reflections on this.
Yeah, you know, the scary part of this is that any alternatives that we write up to show that we need this money is going to mean we're asking for more money. And that's the bottom line. They're not going to come up with more money. And I see some of our Southern Ontario boards and some of the larger boards where they're digging in their heels and not passing the budgets. I don't know if I want to go that far, but I certainly don't, I'm not in a hurry to pass the budget. Let's say that. So I welcome the opportunity to take this home and to go through it a little bit more. But the bottom line is, the best thing that I can think of to show is the SIP funding that we had. It was a wonderful way to deal with a need, a real need in our educational system. And they managed to change the funding rules so that we don't get as much anymore. And you know, the golden rule. He who has the gold rules. And that's something that we can't ever stop fighting for. And that's why I welcome the opportunity, as I say, to take this home and see if we can't come up with a few more questions and drag this out. And I'm going to say right now, I'm not going to be in a rush to pass this budget. Personally, that's my feeling, is that we need to get some holds, some definite specific items that we can talk about and go about. Thank you.
Superintendent Gilbo.
Through you, Chair Farrow, just, I can certainly appreciate that what we went over tonight is a lot, and I know there's a lot of changes and it's a lot to digest, but I'll echo what I said at the beginning. I'm available anytime over the next 2 weeks, and Nancy, I'm sure, will make herself available as well, by email or by phone call or whatever your preferable method is, and happy to go over any detailed questions that you might have once you have a chance to absorb it all.
Thank you, Superintendent Gilbo. So we've heard from all trustees. Trustee Gibson, I'm mindful if you might have a comment or anything, please let us know, because everybody's had a chance to speak. Seeing none, I'll go to Trustee Cosmerly. Go ahead.
Just a question from page 15, just to clarify, the very last paragraph, it says school renewal and school condition index funding will now be recovered at the end of the province's year end, March 31st. In the third year after the funding was in effect. Historically, the amounts were allowed to roll over indefinitely. What does that mean, and what is the impact on us for that?
Through you, Chair Farrell. That is related to, again, their kind of push to build schools faster is that I believe there are projects that have been approved, typically capital priority projects, where the funding has not been spent for whatever reason, and you know, there was a pandemic. I'm sure that has a lot of responsibility there. So they are now saying is that when you do have approval, you have effectively 3 years from the announcement up to the March 31st, so it could be a little bit more, before they claw that back.
Thank you. So I'm looking for any further questions or comments before I make a few comments on this. We're seeing none. So first of all, I want to say a huge thank you to Superintendent Gilbo and Nancy and all the staff, everybody who worked so hard on this in such a very short timeline. This is not an easy task at all. So you need to know how much we appreciate the work that you've all done to present a rather difficult budget to us tonight. So it's very much appreciated. First and foremost, I wanted to make a couple of comments on I guess the overall revenue increase in this, but I'm kind of a simple person. The overall revenue increase in this is about 2.4%. That's what I'm reading out of this. And, you know, I'm not very smart, but that's nowhere close to what we're dealing with in affordability or cost of living right now. So I like to refer to this as death by 1,000 cuts. So although it looks like there's an increase to our budget, but really when you're not comparing apples to apples, you're comparing apples to oranges. I also am very mindful of what I'm hearing out of the minister's office, because every couple of weeks I get a chance to listen to the minister speak very eloquently about the wonders that we're doing with the education budget in Ontario. But I know a number of boards across the province are commenting and asking about, you know, cuts that are happening. And he came back very strongly about eyes on people who have reserves, you know, strong reserves, there is going to be no money coming forward as long as there's lots of money in reserves. That's kind of what I read into this. I'm also, I have to say this because this sort of hits really home where I've lived for years. The fact that there is no provision for an increase in salary to principals or senior administrations in this budget is absolutely ludicrous. We are having tremendously hard time to attract people to come into administration positions, and there has to be some love, there has to be some incentive to do that. So that part did not escape me in this whole budget process also. But in reality, you know, we're having a deficit budget here of about $704,045. It's almost equates to the deficit that we have in transportation. And that is really the issue that we could probably fight upon in this particular time this year, that we don't have the money to actually pay for the transportation. What I'm, you know, I can live with where we're at right now, but I'm tremendously worried what the next year and the year after is going to look like. So we need to be very, very vigilant on this as we move forward. So once again, those are my comments. I just want to say thank you very much once again for the work that you've done, and we very much appreciate the effort, and thank you for answering our not so easy questions sometimes. All right, moving along in our agenda, we have letter F number 2, and this is Governance Bylaw Ad Hoc Committee. And this is just a motion that emanated out of our last meeting. And the motion states that Trustee Corbier Addison, Trustee Duboski, Trustee Dewar, Trustee Farrow, and Trustee Gibson, Trustee Hunda, and Trustee Cosmerly establish the ad hoc committee responsible for review of the Rainbow District School Board governance bylaw and present their recommendations to the Strategic Planning Committee. So we need a mover and a seconder for that motion. Moved by Trustee Cosmerly and seconded by Trustee Dewar. Do you have any questions or comments on this? Trustee Clement. I'm not sure. I don't think you did. But did we miss your name, Trustee Clement? Is that what I'm asking? So I think we can, without too much difficulty, we can add Trustee Clement's name in that. Do we need a friendly amendment to that? Okay. Am I following process here okay? Okay. Okay. So we'll include Trustee Clement's name in that. Any other questions, comments? Seeing none, we'll go to a poll vote. Director?
Trustee Clement? This is the vote for the motion.
That's why you missed the meeting.
In favor.
Trustee Corbier Addison?
In favor.
Trustee Dewar?
In favor.
Trustee Farrow?
In favor.
Trustee Gibson?
In favor.
Trustee Hunda?
In favor.
Trustee Cosmerly?
In favor?
Trustee McCauley?
In favor.
Student Trustee Green?
In favor.
Motion is carried.
Thank you very much, Director. F3, notice of absence. Trustee Duboski, as well as Student Trustee Jack O'Sywin, send their regrets for tonight's meeting. Now we move on to Section F4, Director's Remarks, and I'll turn the mic over to Director Bourget.
Thank you, Chair Farrow. I'd like to begin with just a few comments on our budget. I'd like to join in my expression of appreciation to Superintendent Gilbo, Manager Nancy Chiquetto, the Finance Department, Tiffany Hayes and HR and everyone involved for the extremely hard work to prepare the draft budget presentation for all of you tonight. As you know, the budget information was shared by the ministry in May, and as such, there's been a tremendous amount of work in a very short amount of time to be prepared for today. I do want to assure you that although there are challenges, there's been much hard work done to maintain and prioritize high-quality programming for students. And that's something that I don't want to be lost in the discussion tonight. That is very important. So we have prioritized and maintained high-quality programming for students next year. As you know, our staffing was done prior to any budgets we received due to the timing and our adherence to collective agreements. So our staffing levels are strong and work is being completed so that all the staffing is in place and we're well prepared for school startup in September. And I'd also like to add that now that the teacher salaries have been established through arbitration and the arbitrated award, we're hopeful and advocating that now attention be given to our school administrative teams, and there's lots of discussion going on that, so we're hopeful to hear positive news in that regard, to also see that our hardworking school administrative teams are also recognized for their efforts similar to the teachers. So I'll leave those with you for thoughts, and also appreciation to the hardworking team that's done everything possible at this point to make sure that all the good things we have done this year, we'll continue to be able to do next year on behalf of students. So I'll leave that and switch to, which is something at this time of the year we often do, due to retirements and different needs. There's administrative appointments and transfers. So at this time I'll go through some. I'll list them. Principal Brenda Carr be appointed System Principal of French as a Second Language, Arts, and the new Teacher Induction Program. It's a system role effective August 21st, 2024. Principal Tracy Chapman be transferred to Little Current Public School effective August 21st, 2024. Principal Elizabeth Mack transferred to Coppercliff Public School effective August 21st, 2024. Principal Jennifer Harvey transferred to Churchill Public School effective August 21st. Principal Stephen Winkle transferred to RLBD Public School effective August 21st. Principal Kelly McCauley transferred to Walden Public School effective August 21st. Principal David Sainamore, transferred to Vice Principal of LaSalle Intermediate School, effective August 21st. Vice Principal Carrie Wilson, appointed Principal of Valley View Public School, effective August 21st. Vice Principal Elisa McNeil, appointed Acting Principal of Lansdowne Public School, effective August 21st. Vice Principal Julie Balin, appointed Acting Principal of Asiganek Public School, effective August 21st. Vice Principal Caitlin Angelhoff, transferred to Churchill Public School, effective August 21st. And we have some new appointments. Anastasia Messier, appointed Acting Vice Principal of Jean Hansen Public School, effective September 3rd. Kim Yaganich, appointed Acting Vice Principal of Princess Anne Public School, effective September 3rd. Sarah Blanchard, appointed Acting Vice Principal of McLeod Public School, effective September 3rd. Jake Yopi, appointed Acting Vice Principal of Lively District Secondary School, effective September 3rd. Aaron France, appointed Permanent Vice Principal of Westmount Avenue Public School, effective August 21st. Kara Farrell Menard, appointed Acting Vice Principal of Westmount Avenue Public School, effective August 21st to January 31st, 2025. Vice Principal Kyle Gucher, transferred to Sudbury Secondary School, effective August 21st. Principal Kristen Bichette becomes Permanent Principal of LaSalle Elementary School, effective August 21st. Daniela Catesta becomes Acting Vice Principal of LaSalle Elementary School, effective September 3rd. Joy Ribiak becomes Acting Vice Principal of Queen Elizabeth Public School, effective September 3rd. Principal Robin Best becomes Permanent Principal of C.C. McLean Public School, effective August 21st. And Vice Principal Christine Kretchen becomes a Permanent Vice Principal of Adamsdale Public School, effective August 21st. Thank you.
Thank you, Director, for that report. We'll move on to our next section on the agenda, which is other items, and we'll turn to Trustee Cosmerly for the OPSPA Director's Report.
Thank you. It's already been talked about, but I'm going to say it as well. I was honored to accompany MPP Franz Jelinas on a tour of trades programs at Confederation Secondary School on May 23rd, and MPP Jamie West on a tour of Sudbury Secondary School the following day as part of the OPSPA Take Your MPP to School event. Both MPPs were very impressed with what they saw. I want to thank Principals Bertram and Downey for organizing the visits and for taking time in their busy day to show us around their schools. And I especially want to thank the staff and students who made these visits so special. Finally, my thanks to Chair Farrow for attending these visits with me, and to Nicole Charette for preparing the excellent briefing note we provided to both MPPs. The province is seeking feedback from the public on two items that have a direct impact on school boards. One is proposed legislation entitled Strengthening Cybersecurity and Building Trust in the Public Sector, and the other is a review of the 2020 to 2025 Ontario Anti-Human Trafficking Strategy. These documents are posted on the Ontario Regulatory Registry. Comments will be accepted until June the 11th on the proposed legislation and July 19th on the review. OPSPA will be submitting responses to both. The Ontario Coalition for Children and Youth Mental Health, of which OPSPA is a member, is surveying parents and caregivers to learn what they want and need for resources to support child and youth mental health. The survey can be accessed on the OPSPA website, which is opsba.org. Closing date for comments is June 17th. I encourage parents and caregivers to share their ideas and concerns. And that's all for tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Cosmerly. Any questions? Student Trustee Green.
Thank you, Chair. Student Senate has made our selection for the senators to represent the schools across Rainbow for the 2024-2025 school year. We want to congratulate all of our incoming student senators for getting a place on Student Senate, and we appreciate all that applied. I also wanted to publicly thank our 15 incredible student senators who served this term. Collaborating with these student leaders throughout my term has been nothing short of profound and eye-opening. Myself and our two incoming student trustees, Tia and Alex, all attended the OSTA annual general meeting in Toronto on the 23rd to the 26th of May. We all had a very educational blast. Alex and Tia learned about Robert's rules, email etiquette, and generally learning about their roles. I had a wonderful session about what it means leaving for post-secondary, and we had a panel of past student trustees from across Ontario who shared their wisdom with us. Alex and I worked together with other student trustees from across Ontario to build a bridge made of string, popsicle sticks, and rubber bands. Our group was able to hold 4 cans of soup, whereas most other groups could barely hold 2. Okay, we can applaud. OSTA also held a food drive to donate to a local food bank. I enjoyed being dragged out at 6 a.m. of the hotel to go get food and soup and noodles to donate. I'm more excited. I'm more excited. Our new incoming Indigenous student trustee, Tia Nuchai, was elected into the position of Indigenous Student Trustee Chair Council Chair. This means our board will be represented on a provincial level at OSTA more than ever before. We are incredibly proud of Tia. Unfortunately, elections for all other executive positions have been postponed to a later date. This means that currently, our board is the only one on the leadership team at OSTA, which is pretty impressive. And we're pretty good at building bridges. Alex, Etienne, and I all enjoyed ourselves thoroughly and learned so much. We want to thank our board for sending us to the OSTA conferences and having done that throughout the years. Not all boards send their student trustees to these conferences, and we truly appreciate the learning that we get from them. If there are any questions at this time, I would be more than happy to answer them.
Questions? Thank you, Sawyer. Trustees' remarks. Trustee Hunda, followed by Trustee Cosmerly.
Thank you, Chair Farrell. I'll try to be brief. I want to start by adding my voice of congratulations and farewell to Sawyer and to Sonia as one of your mentors for the last 2 years. It has been an absolute pleasure to get to know you, to grow our friendship, and I wish you all the best as you move forward on your life's journey. I ask you to keep in touch. I want to tell you how incredibly proud I am of you. And this board through this Senate, from what Sawyer was mentioning to me at our Student Senate meeting last night, is unique in many ways, he finds, from the others around the province. So I want to thank the students that make that possible. I want to thank Superintendent McNamara, who, as our superintendent, carries all the educational part of it, and Trustee Bob, who has always been a pleasure to have you as part of our team and fits in so well. But I do want to say that the Rainbow Board makes a difference. We do well at OSTA. We've had representatives before. I'm very excited for Tia. And Sawyer, I want to wish you all the best. I want to thank you for all that you've given in your final year, and you've been a delight, and you will be missed. If I may, I would just like to also say how busy this time of year is, but I hope we're all excited about our graduations and things coming up, which is a really incredible time for us as trustees to celebrate, the board to celebrate these successes going on. So I'm looking forward to that, a little stressed out, but looking forward to that as well. And I want to say thank you to all the staff, all the students. Like, lately, I don't know, I'm just feeling this energy and exuberance wherever I go. And the students, they're just, 99.9% of them are giving their all, and they're enjoying this experience. And that doesn't happen without good leaders, without good teachers, without good superintendents. And it just, is amazing to me. Like, honestly, I'm getting really old, and I get all stressed out when I know I have to go somewhere, but once I get there, I come back, I feel 20 years younger. And I think I've been saying that for many years around this table. Honestly, if you want to stay young, surround yourself with children. But I've managed to see a couple of plays and concerts, and honestly, you know, our school concerts just went to, you know, a number of places they went to perform, and they've all done really, really well. Plays are just blow me away, and all the work and everything that goes on. I just want to say that it's been, we often only hear the bad things, but it's just so many incredible, and I thank you for your report, Director Bourget, because that showcases like all the incredible things that we are doing under tough times, under tough conditions, but this is absolutely the part that we need to celebrate, and I like to think of June as the month to celebrate. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Hunter. Very well said. Trustee Cosmerly.
So that's a good lead into mine. On June the 6th, and I hope I say this right, at Valley View Public School, there will be an evening of music starting at 6:30 p.m., highlighting the students from Valley View and from C.R. Judd. They will be playing music, and they will be joined by the band TNT, which I know, and I'm quite happy to be seeing. There is no admission cost. But rather what is requested is a donation to the Joan Mantle Music Trust. So hopefully, if people are free, they'll come and join us for an evening of music. Thank you.
Further trustee remarks? Trustee Clement.
Sorry, I missed you there. Me too, I'm looking forward to the graduations, digging out my old speeches, my old adages that comes with it. Thank you, Trustee Dewar, for helping me out with those adages you always put in there. And I always use the one, Dr. Seuss, and you read that, you know, the old sayings, and you watch the kid's eyes glaze over, and you go, when's this guy going to quit talking? I'm looking forward to that. Also, I got an invitation today to the co-op lunch in Espanola. Those are really neat, and to show that Espanola has had a big blow this past year with a mill going down, but that hasn't stopped kids getting into the trades, and sponsors picking them up and helping them out. That was really nice. Also, I have to say something about our Senate trustee. What I watched was, throughout the years, many trustees come in. They're always a little green. And to watch Sawyer grow as a person, that makes a real difference, and that's what I see throughout the years. And also, let's see what did he do here? His growth as a person, and taken care of under pressure. We went to that conference. Nothing ever goes just smoothly, and there was a little snag here and there, and I saw it in his face. But he took care of it, and the trustees, and he managed all the trustees together. That's growth, and I'm sure he will be a fine person going down the line. So congratulations with your retirement. Take care.
Trustee remarks. Trustee Corber-Addison.
Thank you. I'd like to echo my congratulations for this 2 student trustees, and your dedication showed throughout the year. We appreciate your efforts. And I see culminating activities in our schools in track and field in the various schools across the board. And any parent, I'd like to encourage parents to get out to those events and support their kids. Tomorrow we have the Magical All-Star Softball event at Terry Falk Complex, or Special Ed, and Indigenous Day coming on the 21st.
Thank you, Trustee.
Along with all the graduations.
Right. Thank you, Trustee Corber-Addison. Anything further? Trustee McCauley.
If you want to come out and help the students at Manettville Public School, we have our fun fair tomorrow evening at 5:30. So bring your wallets. They've got a really great itinerary plan, and set your GPS so you can find it. And I'll see you out there. Starts at 5:30 in the afternoon, rain or shine.
Thank you, Trustee McCauley. Anything further? Trustee Green.
I wanted to thank Trustee Hunda, Trustee Corbier-Addison, and Trustee Clement for your kind words. My Senate term, or my student trustee term, has been stressful, but the most enjoyable and rewarding thing that I've done in high school. I want to thank the entire board for supporting me through this. Yeah, I also wanted to say that at Sudbury Sec on Friday at 7, I have my last performance of high school of Dramatically Yours. Come see it.
Awesome. Thank you, Trustee Green. Seeing no further remarks, or chairperson remarks, first and foremost, thank you. It's been absolutely incredible year so far, and I just wanted to start off my remarks by saying thank you to you, my colleagues, our colleagues around the table, the trustees, for all the hard work and positive energy that we actually are portraying out there. I sort of wanted to, when Trustee Hunda was chatting there about the positive energy, I absolutely feel that positive energy everywhere we go. And I think that is modeled by the work that we do on a day-to-day basis, being out in school, so on and so forth. So I just wanted to echo that. Also, I'm really impressed that lifelong learning continues even when you're a superintendent of schools, because when you can learn safe chicken behavior, Trustee Fisher, this is fantastic. So well done. I knew you were a lifelong learner. This is just absolutely puts it to the top. And I'm sure there's some jokes that I could make about safe chickens and stuff like that, but we'll leave that for another time. I also wanted to echo my kind words to Trustee Green. For me, thank you very much for all the work that you've done. This is what it's all about for us. You remind us on a daily basis the work that we're doing as a Board of Trustees is because of students like yourself. So I can, on behalf of all of us, I want to wish you the best, and I know that you're going to be extremely successful in what you do. So congratulations. Also wanted to make comment too that I was able to attend the police gala, and I was absolutely honored to see the Sudbury Secondary Value Vault being recognized. Once again, the great work that Rainbow Schools are doing in our community is being recognized, so we should be very, very proud of that accomplishment. So this is last month the Rainbow Elementary Schools hosted kindergarten orientation sessions for students starting a school this fall. If you're not registered your child for schools, there's still time to do so, so contact your area Rainbow School to register today. And a reminder to parents and guardians that if you have a child starting school this fall, you're invited to register for kindergarten camp. Rainbow Elementary Schools will offer the program from 9 a.m. to noon on Monday, August 26th to Thursday, August 29th. The deadline to register is June 24th. Sufficient registration is required to ensure the viability of each program, so visit rainbowschools.ca to learn more. And as mentioned by Director Bourget as well as Trustee Cosmerly, I had the pleasure of visiting the two Rainbow secondary schools alongside Trustee Cosmerly to take your MPP to School Day. We attended Confederation Secondary School with Nickel Belt MPP Franz Gilena, as well as Sudbury Secondary School with Sudbury MPP, my good friend Jamie West. Sincere thanks to both Dave Bertrand and Heather Downey, as well as the staff and the students for their very friendly welcome. And I'll assure all trustees too that the briefing notes that we provided them were really well received. They contain information about transportation shortfalls, SIM funding, as well as Indigenous education shortfalls. I've since had a follow-up email from Jamie West's office, and we're starting that conversation back and forth. So that's really positive stuff. Starting this week from June 3rd to 9th, Rainbow Schools will mark Canadian Environmental Week, which celebrates Canada's environmental achievements and places a spotlight on our nature and precious resources, possible issues, preservation, and conservation. The annual Aboriginal Student Success Awards will take place tomorrow, June 5th, at the Caruso Club to celebrate the achievements of Indigenous youth and their advancements in secondary education system. The ceremony will bring together many students and families from across Rainbow Schools. Award categories will include academics, arts, athletics, attendance, cultural recognition, extracurricular involvement, leadership, most improved, and positive spirit. And grade 12 law students from Rainbow Secondary Schools will participate in the 20th annual Sudbury Regional Mock Trial Competition at the Sudbury Courthouse on Tuesday, June 11th. An award ceremony will take place in the afternoon to honor the recipients of the Hennessy Cup, named after Madam Justice Patricia C. Hennessy. A number of individuals and team-based awards will also be presented. Good luck to all participants. And a friendly reminder that the final professional activity day for 23-24 school year will take place next Monday, June 10th. There will be no school for students. And students with exceptionalities from the Rainbow District School Board will gather in one of our favorite things, the annual challenge meet on Thursday, June 3rd at Laurentian University Track. Students will compete in track and field events from races to high jumps and long jumps to shot put. In the event of inclement weather, the meet will take place on Tuesday, June 25th. And we want to extend best wishes to all participants, and we want to invite anybody that's available to come out and to celebrate with everyone. And it's a magical time of year for students whose achievements are celebrated at graduation ceremonies across the boards. Graduations are taking place over the coming weeks and will continue through the end of June. Trustees, I hope you enjoy this opportunity to celebrate the real student success and achievement that are happening within Rainbow Schools. And the challenge meet is June 3rd. Did I make them? Oh, there's a mistake here. Sorry. Director Bourget, how quick he is on the mark. So the date that I have in my notes is June 11th for the challenge meet. The challenge meet is June 13th. So please correct your schedule. It is June 13th, which is a Thursday. Okay, thank you. And that, my friends, concludes my remarks for this evening. We're into section G of our agenda, information and proposals that are attached as part of your agenda package. There are a couple of tenders. There's 3 tenders that are attached for Larchwood Public School, Central Manitoulin Public School, and Princess Anne. And future meetings coming up, we have Equity and Inclusion on June 13th at 4. We have Special Education Advisory Committee on June 5th at noon hour, and our next board meeting is June 17th at 3:30. So that's a change of time. It's 3:30, so some of us can attend graduations. So if there's nothing else, we have Trustee Corber-Addison.
I'm pretty sure the spec ed meeting is postponed due to the events that are happening at the baseball Terry Fox complex because it's involving all those staff.
Okay, we're going to go to Superintendent Washnak.
Thank you, Chair Farrow. Thank you, Trustee Corber-Addison. So the Special Education Advisory Committee for a meeting for June has been moved to have the members of SEAC come out and support the softball tournament happening at Terry Fox tomorrow. And so we have some SEAC members attending that, so thank you very much. I also just wanted to add that the rain date for the challenge meet is June 20th, in the event that it cannot happen on the 13th due to rain. But we would obviously announce that. Thank you.
Thank you. So the rain date, June 20th for the challenge meet. So if there's nothing further, that's it for tonight. We'll stand adjourned, so I'll need a motion to adjourn. Moved by Trustee Clement and seconded by Trustee